Oh, it'd be either Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
Yay. That, the try.
All right. So
Okay.
looks like we're good. Thank you.
You're officially good.
All right, so I guess we can officially call 2023. First item, attendees who attend the meeting in person, for the room of the library meeting, or stream the meeting on the library's YouTube channel. A recording is made available after the meeting at the city's website. First, public comment period. Community members are invited to address the board during this time. Don't believe we have any community members, so we can keep moving. And first, roll call. Angela. Teresa.
Present.
Nick. Here. Steve. Yeah.
Here.
Adam. Here. So we can officially call the meeting to order. So next, order of the agenda. If everybody had a chance to review the agenda in the prior email. I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda. So moved.
Second.
Thanks. All in favor? Aye. All right, motion approved. Next, getting into the updates and reports this evening. First, we'll start with the Rochester Public Library Foundation report. And Brenda.
Hey, Brenda Crowder from the Rochester Public Library Foundation. We had a successful book box ribbon cutting with a lot of folks out. We didn't have a real great head count. The library might say what the bookmobile had later, but we had 60 people register for door prizes. But I think that it would easily be double that attended. But it was a really nice event, and it was so nice for the library to have the bookmobile there so that people that were in the neighborhood could register for a library card if they wanted to, so they could access the book box. So that was really fun, and a lot of press outlets too. I think all the stations were out there. So the 5 people spoke in favor of keeping the charter as is at the public hearing on May 1st, and no one spoke in favor of the change recommended by the Charter Commission. At least 7 of our foundation board members contacted their elected representatives to voice their concern for changes. We did send out the summer patron letter last week. You should have got it. And we will be sending out our Summer Sprouts business campaign later this month. So if anybody has any questions?
Thank you, Brenda, for the update. Thanks for you and the team for the work with the Charter Commission as well.
And you too.
Well appreciated. Next, we have Friends of the
which was a huge success. Just that one day, they brought in $1,400. So when you consider that the whole month, it was $7,400, and just one day they made $1,400. That was a pretty busy day. So our next big auditorium book sale is during Rochester Fest. A private sale for Friends members only is Thursday evening, June 22nd from 5 to 7 p.m. If you don't have an active membership, you can purchase your membership online ahead of time, or you can purchase it at the door when you're walking in. Public sale dates from 10 to 5:30 on both Friday and Saturday, the 23rd and 24th. And then Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4 is our bag day, where we give you double bagged grocery bag, $9. I can't remember what the number is, but I think they're $9 a piece. And we do double bag them because we know they're going to rip. We have flat buds if you want to take, DVDs. But every once in a while, somebody says, hey, I have this collection of, would you like it? And Pat's getting pretty good at reviewing those, but she's also got quite a bit that she's been storing, and it's been really difficult for storage space. So they came up with this cute little name called the Curiosity Emporium in the Auditorium. Or you could also call it Flea Market at the library. And so we're going to try and she'll have some vintage books there, but other than that, it's just, she will be posting on Facebook more details on what kinds of things. There's Beanie Babies, there's, I think she said Hess trucks. Somebody had a collection of mortar and pestles. a wide variety of cool stuff. So if you're into cool stuff, stop by on that Saturday. And that's all I have for now. Any questions?
Thanks, Val. Next, we have a Selco update. Teresa.
Yeah. So my first meeting will be this week or next week, May 23rd. So I'll have more to report then. But I know that topic of discussion is the merging of cell phone cells. And I believe that was my understanding when I read through all the notes. It seemed like that they had voted to do that. But now it can be negated by, am I wrong on that?
Would you like to provide some?
Because it was part of the task force. Yeah, it could be negated by anything, yeah.
The board and several staff put together a team to look at it and review it. And a recommendation from that task group was for the board to make that consideration. It's still up to the board to decide based on that study and that research if that's something.
Right. Okay, so then the minutes don't read that way. So, because when I read the minutes, it says it was voted on and the motion was approved. So we'll have to look at that.
Well, that may have happened after, the recommendation was
Right.
made 6 months ago, so there may
Right.
have been.
Okay. So anyway, anything can happen, even if it gets approved, that it falls through. Because there's so many counties that have to come to agreement with making this change. So more on that as time progresses. And if anybody has any thoughts on it that they want to share with me to take to Selco board for me to discuss there, feel free to reach out to me. What are you grinning about?
Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah.
Look forward for the update at the next meeting.
Yes.
That'd be great. Based on she's no longer a youth, technically, she'll be graduating high school. So I know we have a certificate of recognition that we'll be providing to her. If anybody would want to reach out to and provide a thanks, I think that'd be appreciated from Chloe. But I know we've talked a lot about youth services representation in the past. I don't know if we necessarily need to get into that or if there's any updates on it.
Yeah, I think we would probably look for some direction. Years ago, we did have participating solely on a council just for a resume or for, that part was a struggle. And so I can't remember the year that it was that we started having representatives from the youth commission in a way piloted being that representation. As you know, the youth commission, that has been kind of completely turned upside down. So the entire youth of Rochester in this one position, is that that's still something that we think is really attainable in that model.
How did we find Chloe?
She was part of the youth commission.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's been restructured now, correct?
Yeah.
Sort of.
Kind of without.
It hasn't been
without a-
finalized. Yeah, nothing's been finalized.
Yeah. Very in limbo.
It's a good place to be something. So shouldn't we just hold off until they solidify what they're gonna do with the youth commission? Actually, recruit from that group, or?
I think that's really the board's purview to decide what the board would like to get from a non-voting youth member.
I think a youth member is important, but I'd like to see it be something that there is a way for input to come forward or something connected to the youth commission made sense because at least in theory, right, that person was
You're
a
not
liaison.
gonna find somebody, you can't pick that one
right.
perfect person, that's gonna represent all youth. And so you would hope they would come from another organization where they get a variety of perspectives and they can share that.
Yeah.
And is that the only organization in Rochester that is youth oriented, or is there like a sub-agency of an agency that deals with youth issues?
I think there are there were a number of organizations. I think that was nice because it was civic. And the youth commission was a civically engaged group, and I do think it will come back around to being something like that.
Other things like that that are within the governmental structure.
Not that are gonna come from the civic side of government. You get things from school or, you know, but you're not gonna get anything.
I don't know of anything.
Is there likely to be some finalized guidance from the city or youth commission soon, or is that something that we say we want to hear more about, but then we wait 3 or 4 or 5 months and we still don't hear anything? I mean,
I think people
And I
are
think
looking into. but-
Yeah, it could very well be 3, 4, or 5 months. I mean, it's been a good year or maybe a year and a half of going through some of this process, so is something you would like me to get more information on about the status of the youth commission and bring that back?
That'd be helpful
Yeah.
if the staff has any other direction saying, hey, this is maybe can go from.
is the mayor sort of the contact or sort of the chart, the lead of that?
Yeah, there used to be a person in charge with the county, and that person is no longer the county. And that, I think that individual really was some pretty serious glue to the youth commission, so.
Student government and
Yeah.
councils and other things,
Right, but there's not one
But
that
not-
tries to,
right, that's cumulative.
Nothing goes beyond.
because that would be the source of
Yeah.
everything. If it doesn't exist.
So what I'm hearing is a recommendation, just if we can collect some more high-level information, but no official motion or anything.
It's a good idea to have a youth representative. But, yeah, we want that person to be able to, as best as he or she can.
Discuss as a board at a future date. Right. Thank you. Next, getting on to the consent agenda, excuse
I
me.
would move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Nick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, consent agenda passes. Let's keep moving. Reports and recommendations all this evening, so I think we could just breeze right by that one. And then getting into informational items. So I'll come over to Karen.
Right. I think we may even have pictures with this. I believe. So we initially had requested funding through the capital improvement project process, the CIP process, to replace the AMH, the automated materials handling system. However, the city administration is really recommending that we use our IT revolving fund to pay for this project because it's something that we want done sooner rather than later. It is on its last healthy leg. So just for folks that don't know, the AMH, here we go, was installed in 2008, so it's been here a while. It was new way back when. That was the article from the newsletter in 2008. That includes both the outdoor book drop, which is heavily utilized, as well as the indoor system right by the circulation desk. We have had times where it has gone out, and it's very, very painful. So we had recently a day and a half that it went out. Finding parts is difficult. And there's Andy's face. I couldn't see your face. Andy's going to tell us more about it because Andy gets to deal with those problems, or he's here to answer questions if there's more questions.
I can answer questions.
Perfect.
If circulation services is the heart of the library, the automated materials handling system is the superior vena cava of that heart. It saves us about 8 hours of physical labor every single day. It's the hard, sucky labor where you have to like bend over and lift stuff. So, if you have any questions?
So It does, there are about 3,300 items that are coming back every day. Getting them pre-sorted with the AMH is really important. As you know, our book drop space is that's where people are returning materials, and if they don't go through the AMH, they go through the little slots, and those quickly fill up and become kind of a nightmare in the back end. So obviously, it's important that we replace it. The ITRF is not where we had envisioned paying for this, but we had been saving for years to replace a server for our ILS when we were hosting, when we had our server internally, but it has been moved to SaaS. So we do have funds in that account that could cover that. But for us to really move forward, we do need a motion to make that request to City Council to move those funds, to use those for this, to do a budget adjustment, because it's not something we had asked for the 2023 budget.
I would move that I want to restate it, but move the funds in order to.
Just a reminder, how much are we talking?
$206,000.
And after we take that out, we're still okay.
Yes, we've been told that we have a healthy fund. Again, saving for a replacement server would have been very expensive. It is a fund that we're putting money into from operating every year. So.
Replacing this was kind of back for people's over the years.
Not replacing this, replacing that server was, and that was a very big expense. So there is some of, and it has our,
Yeah, you need a second.
Or you have a discussion.
Yeah.
I second it.
Okay, second from me, sorry.
I just wonder how soon can we have the information?
let's go with that. I like that better. That sounds shorter.
So that's sometime in the fall.
Yeah.
So have you all already evaluated systems that you're thinking about purchasing? And are we upgrading to a higher quality system, that does more than what we currently have?
We do have some significant benefits from utilizing components of the current system. But the techie complex parts would be faster and would be better. But we can reuse, for example, those bins that are a significant chunk of change, and all just the bins that work with the system are $16,400. I mean, there's some significant savings to
Sustain
use the same. Yeah.
There's also a piece of equipment, a power curve, that is an industrial piece of equipment that is bespoke for our specific automated materials handling system, that using the same vendor, we can reuse that piece. But Steve and I, we regularly look at automated materials handling systems when we go to PLA, and there aren't a million vendors out there. This is the library, which was kind of cool. So we have technology in this library from all of the major library vendors, and I think that we have a good relationship with the vendor. Sticking with the vendor would be good.
And they've been responsive.
That's just yesterday.
Any other additional questions for? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any dissent? Motion passes. Next, you have the IT integration.
Yes. Next, we have our friend Tony from is the new director of IT and cybersecurity. So I'll let Tony introduce himself a little bit, but pre-Tony, City of Rochester had a director of IT and director of finance were the same person. That has now been split into two roles because those are different roles, and the time and the dedication to each of those roles is really important. So Tony will not be balancing our checkbooks, but Tony will be, here to talk about cybersecurity, and you can actually come to the table. Like, then we can pick you up on the microphone too.
Great, excellent. So, good afternoon. I'm Tony Campbell. As Karen mentioned, I'm the IT cybersecurity director for the city. And I'm here to talk to you today just a little bit about the integration of IT for city and library. So we have a number of current challenges, growing demand for services, growing number of devices and applications that we support. This is across both library and city. We're seeing this growth. IT support staffing levels within IT have been pretty stagnant. It's always a challenge. I think you'd hear that with a lot of other areas as well. I believe Steve could attest to the fact that a couple of years ago, before COVID, Audrey was considering trying to get an additional part-time PC tech for the library. That was something that just didn't come to fruition, but it was recognized even pre-COVID that the library was short-staffed with regard to IT. Because of those staffing levels, we see that we don't have backup or cross-training, particularly with our system administrator positions or our individuals who work on the servers or, for example, the ILS system. We struggle there. That's at the city and the library as well. And we also see that we have a severe impact when IT teammates depart. The library felt that relatively recently when Josh Wackles left. It was pretty challenging when you have someone that's been here for a number of years and they leave, and then you're trying to replace that knowledge. We also have a number of different siloed systems and duplicate systems that as a whole end up costing the city and the library additional money. As indicated here, we look at Wi-Fi, backup, network management, firewalls, and those duplicate systems do often create some frustration for the city and the library teams. And then when we think about security, we find that a lot of the things we need to do in that space can be a little time consuming, and it's work that we probably didn't worry as much about 10 or 15 years ago as we do now. With the growing threat of breaches, we think even here in Minnesota, what's recently happened with Rochester Public Schools and Minneapolis Public Schools, it's, unfortunately, it's a real threat. And we also find that we have underutilized tools due to time constraints and workloads of the team. And we know there's some necessary safeguards that are not in place due to those same time constraints and workloads. So we believe we can meet those challenges by coming together, joining forces, gives us an opportunity to eliminate duplicate systems, reduce costs, which ties into helping out with that ITRF fund balance that Karen talked about, improving IT teammate engagement, improving service and support, removing some technical barriers. We have folks that come over to the city from the library or vice versa for various different meetings, and they have difficulty connecting to the Wi-Fi because we're on two different siloed systems. There are just a lot of things that we could do to make it more seamless for everyone. And then we could implement those necessary system-wide security configuration safeguards. To do this individually would take 5 FTE, but we can do it by adding 1 FTE on the city side, an additional PC tech in 2024. This org chart, is that shown? This org chart, I really just want to draw your attention to where it's circled there and it says ILS. The identity and cloud services team will be a team that Steve will be overseeing. So Steve will still be very involved with the ILS system under this restructure. And I do want to point out there have been a number of strategic decisions that have been made over the last several years that have led us to this point. Some of them would be in 2015, a technology steering committee was established. Audrey served on that committee. Karen is now on that committee. In 2016, the city brought on its first enterprise IT security specialist. In late 2019, we trained staff on Microsoft 365. Rochester Public Library accounts were moved to Rochman Greenfield domain in late 2019. 2020, by early 2020, we had everybody in Microsoft 365 for email and Teams. And in 2021, the RPL computers were migrated to that Greenfield domain environment. And in 2021 to 2023, new RPL virtual servers have been deployed in that shared single domain environment that's shared between the library and the city. And how will this affect Rochester Public Library? At least one PC tech will be at the library daily for a full 8-hour shift. Other PC techs will visit the library periodically to assist with projects or when ticket workload is high. Various other IT teammates will be doing work for the library, even though they may not always be physically located in the computer center. For example, ILS support, network support, security monitoring and configuration. Those things will happen for the library, but the individuals doing that, including Steve, may not always be based out of the computer center. The library team will have access to some skilled resources in areas that they currently don't have deep expertise, for example, networking and virtualization. The IT director, that's me, will be at the library frequently during the transition period and will maintain scheduled hours in the computer center each week after that transition period. Steve will be in the computer center periodically as well. Impact to budgets and accounts is something that's being discussed. Perna had a lot of great questions on that front. We don't anticipate any immediate changes. We know that there's some county funding that comes into the library, and we need to be very careful to make sure that that funding and those devices that are purchased with that money stay here at the library. So we don't anticipate any big changes there immediately with the budget. But I will say one key piece of this is going to be getting additional PC tech support at the library so that Steve and Michael Smith and Twan can spend their time and expertise on the ILS system and on some of this server security stuff and all this other work that we're just finding we've struggled to have time to do. And Steve, even Steve, but Mike in particular and Twan to some extent find themselves doing PC tech level work. And we really want to get PC techs in here.
Incremental FTE position is fully funded by the city to start, and then more discussions in the future about any other potential impact.
Yes.
So the IT teammates that you mentioned there would be coming from within the city? That would come here and periodically?
Correct. Yes, we have.
And they would not come from the computer center. Where would they come?
They would be coming from City Hall and or DSIC, the North Station building, which used to be the old Think Bank, where we have community development and a portion of the police. We have PC techs out there as well. So those individuals would come in here to assist when ticket loads are high or when the PC tech that's here needs some additional support. If we have device deployments or different things, we would push additional support in.
And they could do ongoing support virtually as well. They don't always have to be physically.
Correct. That's
And that would be an ongoing kind of understanding.
yes. And we do have a remote support tool at the city that we utilize where an individual can chat and then get a technician connected to their computer to do work. That tool will be deployed here at the library and become available very soon.
At any time.
Yeah.
How is the prioritization and ranking of tickets determined? Because the library is not life-saving organization, right? So I can see it being very easy for us to always be at the very end. And if there's this high load, our issues don't get resolved very efficiently.
And that's a concern that I can tell you is shared by a lot of other departments. The attorney's office or the HR office or even finance or park and rec. They're always concerned that, well, if the fire department or the police department put in a ticket, does that mean everybody's going to run away and leave us and not help us? And we've found that not to be the case. One other piece that will be a part of this transition is that Human Resources will be sending out a survey to the larger library team 30 days after this go live, which is tomorrow. And then 180 days after that, we'll also have opportunities for staff to provide feedback within K-Box when they put in a ticket. Every ticket they put in, when it's completed, they'll be presented with a survey opportunity and they can voice any concern that they may have about the response time.
Sure.
And they can certainly come to me or to Karen as
Sure.
well.
So my question actually was what is the, how is the ranking and priority set up? I mean, I understand that, the emergencies are going to be there, but how is it defined in terms of the decision tree for ranking prioritizations?
Well, the library will have a PC tech here every day for a full shift, which other departments don't. Not all other departments have that luxury. So that person's focus is 100% library all day long, and then they can pull in additional people as needed.
And in the ticketing system, there is some self-selecting on the ticket submitter
Yeah.
to indicate this is a high priority. Which you're right, somebody in police may not think that, or not police, that's not any other department that might say that's not a high, but we know our business and our customers.
Yes.
And Tony's been very committed to being here at least once a week to hear that feedback in person as well, which is, I think he's aware that he could have a line out the door if all of the sudden we're feeling that none of our tickets or needs of the patrons are being met. I think there is that commitment carries through both from the teams that have been, working in the building, but, will be connected to us more virtually now. They're advocating as well and understand what customers and patrons and community members need for this continued access to resources.
I think it's important to remember too that the investment that we made to move our mission critical system, the ILS into Cersei Dynex Cloud, in Cersei's, regard, we are their only priority as a SaaS hosted customer. So it doesn't really rely so much on, what might be going on elsewhere. They have a certain level of service that they are required by contract to meet for us on that system. It doesn't mean that, if you can't log into your PC viewer, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot, but at least that very critical system is handled in the cloud now.
Thank you.
manner.
Understand correctly, the teammates and the FTE will all funded by the city.
So the new teammate that will be added in 2024, or at least we presume it will be, city council will need to approve the budget, but it is being advocated for by administration. That will be funded by the city, yes.
And then who will oversee those employees? Because on the one side, they stay here for the daily work, and then I see there is cross-functional reporting lines. I want to make clear about that.
Yeah, sure. So
Maybe one additional piggyback question. So that dedicated FTE that'll be on site for the short term, or at least as the rollout, that's fully funded by the city as well? Or does that roll back to library expense?
well, the part of that is the discussion around budget. Right now, the individual who will be remaining here is a current library computer center PC technician. Whether that shifts later, those are the discussions that are being.
That's helpful.
But as far as the reporting structure goes, what I call the frontline team, which would include the PC techs, they report to me. So I will be supervising them. Steve will be supervising a group of system administrators, including the individuals who will be working on the ILS system. And of course, Steve will be here. We're anticipating Steve's going to continue to attend library board meetings. And Steve will be still directly supporting the library. Steve and I have been working together since 2016.
Right, Tony started as the enterprise IT security specialist, and so he was based out of the library one day a week, and was fully kind of embedded with our team. Tony comes from usually the K through 12 education, so we have very similar conversations and thoughts on IT and stuff. Very hand in hand with where Tony comes from.
What are those two top, not the top one, but the two top orange boxes? I can't read that.
Infrastructure supervisor and enterprise applications supervisor. Those are two supervisory positions. Steve would be filling that role of infrastructure.
Thank you, Tony and Steve, for the update. Next item we have on the agenda is the library marketing update with Orange Boy. What's this one?
And everybody, round of applause to Jeremiah for doing two things, because it's very challenging to be running the streaming and to also discuss, but I did think it was really important that Jeremiah gets to share about this, because it's his day job. And
yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'll just be presenting from back here because the stream is fighting actively with me. But basically, this is a great product that we have. So the Savannah product through Orange Boy is specifically a system that's been made for libraries to use. And to kind of give a comparison that you might be familiar with, think kind of if you take MailChimp and then also were to mix that directly with some sort of analytics program, you get what they started to build out. And then they also have a lot of other features that we don't currently use that are in like incident reporting, and they also offer our ability to tie directly into their agency, and so they can do some work for us, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So what the program actually does, it syncs the data from our ILS and Overdrive, and so it captures that on a weekly kind of sync up and allows us to deep dive into some of that data. Just want to let everybody know from the safety security side of it, we cannot use this tool to see individual checkouts. They are very strongly opinionated, as we are as well, about protecting that privacy. But they use a great system that kind of puts people into clusters, which we'll share about next, that allow us to still get a good idea of what some of our customers are doing. They also have an email outreach system, which is a drag and drop HTML email builder, which has some great analytics that come from it, which of do monthly emails. So if you've used your card recently, you'll get those as well. This is the big list of the clusters and kind of the definitions that they give that they'll sort all of our customers into. So depending on the types of materials they're using, how active they are with us, the bottom one there, the inactives, if they haven't used their card in the last year, basically they kind of get stuck into this ability to re-engage with them in the space there. But what we've really noticed a lot because of our digital users, the digitarian seems to be a very popular category. So anything basically that they connected to with Overdrive, they'll pop into that category. So this is a great way where we're not looking at their actual checkout data, but we're able to see kind of where our customers go and then break that into different analytical data of regions, which we'll talk about too. So this is the breakdown of the clusters. Sorry, that's a little bit long, but hopefully you have the slides as well. That'll kind of showcase where our current active customers are. So you'll get the occasionals, which is by default always the most popular. It means that somebody's kind of across the board. They're not specifically consistent in a category. And then you'll start to see that breakdown across. So it's a great tool to see how we compare data to compare against. So we do have that to see where our customers are in terms of what their clientele is. Next slide.
To go to the cloud, come back down. See an email slide in just a minute, and it's really pretty.
There we go. So the email tool is really where we've been the most active, I would say, in the subscription. So I spun up that, like I said, those monthly emails, which have been really, really active, and it's been great to see our users actually respond to our emails. So in the marketing world, you're really lucky if you're looking at like a 13 to 15% open rate. Obviously, libraries are a little bit different. And I think last report on that slide is our open rate's at 60%, which if we weren't in a library would just be absolutely mind blowing, and marketing people would be doing backflips. We have very active clientele, and it's been great. We've been able to push out a lot of information. And then my philosophy is I always like to have active actionable items in the emails, because then if they click something, we get a report on it. So if you do get those, you'll see we've got now a lot of like calendar of events that'll take you to our library calendar. So I can check and see in the last email that went out, 200 people clicked through to this link. And so it's been, I've been treating it kind of as a test, as it's a newer process, and then slowly tweaking and moving things around. It doesn't do true A/B testing, which I wish it did, but I'm able to take some of that data and move things around a little bit, tweak the way that I present information, and then gauge that on monthly reports that come out.
So these emails, are they promotional in nature?
More informational.
Such as, what's an example?
So usually there's like the top two kind of news stories, I'll say. So one, like the April email that went out, obviously the book box was the top story. I think under that was the call for artwork for the Square Foot Gallery. Then there's also a section that we dedicate for the Friends and the Foundation to showcase something. And then there's another section that might be like city announcements. I think we used the, I want to say cleaning of the ramps might have been on there for the day that was going to be closed. We've done construction updates through this. So it kind of is just a way of what's going on. And then the calendar of events is pretty consistent.
And then it tells you how people are, what percentage of people actually take an interest.
Yes, yep. How many people open it, how many people click through, and then you can kind of, it really doesn't get a ton deeper than that, but I can compare month to month. I can compare all the messages against each other. And then we also have turned select stories from our quarterly newsletter into an email. And so that will push people into the email, which will then send them to the website when we do a news story. And so I can watch that customer
And
journey.
eventually you can compare them historically.
Correct. Okay, next slide.
Are there, I'm sorry.
Yep, yeah,
Are there the catalog, I mean, like, can people go from there into the catalog? Is there like here are new materials or?
So not yet.
Okay.
We're looking at some of the features our catalog has, will allow us to build custom lists. So the librarians will actually be able to have lists that they can get to from a link. Because right now you kind of getting to the catalog to something specific, it's a little bit challenging because the link becomes really challenging. So we're actively looking through that. Currently, if we can build these lists, link them on social media and through the email system, and then see if that actually follows through to checkout, which would be amazing.
Which increases patronage.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. One of the great tools that we have is the analytics tool. And so Orange Boy supplies us with kind of our program manager that also has access to their data folks. And what they're able to do is work with us on some reporting. So what you see here is market saturation broken down by census tract of all of our Rochester customers. And so we can actually dial in and start to look at different areas that, maybe we're not seeing a high market saturation rate. How do we kind of connect with those customers? How do we maybe get reactivated cards or new cards? That's one of the tools that we're using in our BookBox project to be able to look back and see, have we re-engaged and seen a market saturation number go up for an area that was lower pre-BookBox?
And are we using zip codes?
So it uses census tracts. So it's the next level down from zip codes that the census actually has divided folks into. It uses those kind of geo coordinates to overlay.
So it's more deeper than a zip code.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. I would say it's like your next region down. Next slide. As I mentioned, they have an agency that we can work with and do special projects. So we actually reached out and contracted with them to help us with the BookBox launch. So we designed the postcard. They actually pulled the addresses of people we went with 3 census tracts that we had a lower card rating. The addresses of folks that did not have cards with us to send the postcard to. So they actually did the printing and the mailing. And then they built us an email list of those that were inactive, that we had email captured for in the region, and then also our active customers in the region. So we could send targeted messages to them, letting them know of the BookBox and that it was there. And so we did the first postcard, which you can see up there. There'll be a follow-up postcard in the next couple of weeks that will go out to those that still don't have a card. That'll basically kind of show like, hey, this is live. Here's what we're offering. And then we're also going to put the nearest bookmobile stop where they could go and pick up a card, understanding that some of the barriers might be coming downtown to physically get a card. So they've kind of curated that. They built a little dashboard for us, and then they'll work up kind of a final report based off the numbers they've seen from our ILS and work with us on that. So it was a great service, came at a great price. And we're hoping to utilize some of their services like this again when it comes with really trying to target and figure out what our options are. So maybe it's something like a mailing to non-card holders for the city and see what that looks like. I know we're going to try and work with their data person on maybe pulling some of the census tract data and using that to determine future bookmobile stops as well. So it's been a great tool that lets us do quite a few different things. And it's been really exciting to continue to dig into it over the past few months. Any questions?
Can I go back to the analytic map?
Sure.
How deep can this go in terms of the census data?
So what you can kind of see, it's hard to see on there, all the different lined regions of those census tracts, we can pull up but group cluster data on each individual region. So,
so we were looking at the Southeast, for example.
Sure.
We could find data in a radius of 4 or 5 blocks.
It would be whatever's defined by those census tracts. So
what defines those census tracts? What do they use for?
The boundaries are the really, really light color. You can barely see them, but that light border is the actual census tract border.
And how does the census make a track? I don't know.
Yeah, that's very formulaic by population density and other things that, so it's not just geography, but it's population density and.
So a lighter, I mean, a less populated area would get a kind of a largest kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they're not necessarily square.
I'm bringing this up because
Strangely shaped.
Yeah, I'm bringing this up because I think this could be very important in terms of really gauging where we're impactful or aren't impactful.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm wondering how deep can you get with this when you apply our library data and you place the Rochester in this area?
I believe, yeah, that's one of the
So
buildings.
we could transfer some of this, or maybe,
So it is using
is that possible?
data straight from our ILS and from our
Already
overdrive.
speaking to it. Right?
Yeah,
Both of them.
yeah.
And then the clusters are important because that tells you what type of user.
Think about the size.
Type of user.
So we could, I mean, we can
Yeah.
play with this more.
Yeah, and this is why we really,
I think this is really important.
Yeah.
This can really tell you where we are or aren't
yes,
in impact.
yeah,
And also the city data probably has, we actually talked about this after the last meeting. I was wondering about service to minorities. How could we ever know whether or not we are doing a good job with that? And the city data does, when they take the census, they do ask ethnicity questions, do they not?
Yes, race.
Okay, so we know from the census that certain ethnicities live in certain areas, right?
or we can see, and even in this tool, you can toggle through the different sense, you can hover over a census, or you can look at it. There's an option, a menu of options where you can see like a higher percentage of BIPOC, I think is one of the options listed, maybe. I know for sure income is on rent or own.
Yeah.
Yeah, the renter own was the big one we've been lucky to have with the tracks that we ended up using for the book box. Being able to really get that in front of a lot of renters.
Yeah.
It was, the book box location was more of the convenience of the fire hall and having the network, but the census tracts around it actually were a lower saturation, a higher renter, I think a lower income. And so we are actually monitoring those now as book box is there to see if those numbers start to rise, therefore being able to say that the book box successfully helped our market saturation in those areas. So it's a great way to have that visualization. We're also actively comparing this with our Blue Cloud analytics as well to make sure that things do line up.
Okay, so the census data that we have would also help us in seeing how, well, we can't ask, when people get library cards, we don't ask their ethnicity, we can't, I think that would discourage use, but using the census data that we do have, and if we can zoom in on these specific areas and apply some of the circulation data to those areas, we would get a sense whether or not we are servicing those maybe ethnically rich areas. We could at least get a sense of how we're doing.
Yeah, and you
You
can
want to
see,
make
there's,
this
you can
up?
see this,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that they're not, I wish the colors were even more dramatic so you
Yeah.
could get a better sense for that. It should be all across the board, right? We should have saturation rates the same. We should have, and they're not.
Because,
Right?
okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot we can do with this.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting some great questions. Is there any potential recommendation to?
No, I'm just,
Or the Jeremiah, I mean, maybe.
my recommendation is to use this data as much as you can.
And that was really one of the reasons that we felt it was very important to bring this forward was to even just level set it before we bring back any results from the book box pilot to highlight any of those points, but just to kind of level set, we're not just making this up, we're actually getting this from this tool.
The better sense we have of how we're serving, the better.
And the smarter you can use
Yeah.
your dollars, both election dollars and marketing dollars.
I'll shut up now. I think this is important.
Yeah, it is a really cool tool. And you were saying that you have some familiarity with this tool and
Yeah, and in fact, Pikes Peak Library District used Orange Boy, which is the name of the cat. That's a strange name. That was the original cat. Their cat's name was Orange Boy. We used the cluster information before they had developed like this tool and integrated it into our own tools, but we had a great experience with them. Yeah, it's good information.
Thanks, Jeremiah, for the update. Next, getting the question and answer session. Any items from the board that we haven't addressed? Anything we forgot? All right. Guess we're getting to the end. I have a motion to adjourn the meeting. A second. Angela, second, and all in favor? Aye. All right. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.